The Pitt Panthers here have a win total of 6.5, Sean. I just went through it. This was not a team that I seriously looked at. Their schedule's a joke. Their
Yeah.
schedule is an absolute
100%.
joke.
Yeah, no, I mean when breaking these down, I mean you look at the over under. I'm on Pittsburgh over 6.5 wins. Again, Narduzzi has been super consistent at his time there in the school. I mean, since 2015, if you throw out the COVID 2020 year, they still won 6-5 that year. They've won 7 or more games every year. Their offensive line's looking pretty good. You mentioned their schedule. They don't get Clemson, they don't get Miami, which obviously is huge for them. We had Phil Steele on our podcast, and he listed Pittsburgh as one of the surprise teams. And I mean, I know some things have changed for this Pitt Panthers team, but they've won 20 games in the last 2 seasons. Pretty favorable schedule. I don't mind them as a long shot at the ACC either. I know the price has dropped a little bit from when we were breaking them down earlier in the process there, but I still like them. And then, you get Jerkovich, the hometown kid, didn't have a great year with Boston College, but he's coming back to Pittsburgh where he's from. It feels like everything's coming together, and Pitt continues to be a tough spot for some of these ACC teams on the road, especially late in the season.
They, again, looking at their schedule, there'll be a dog against Notre Dame. There'll be a dog against Florida State. Other than that, I mean, it's conceivable they are a favorite in every other game that they play this year, depending on how Wake and Duke are as we go through the year. Vatech's still not good enough, and West Virginia's going to be a mess this year in 2023.
No. So, I mean, to your point, like, if they're favored in 9 games or 8 games, them going 7-5 feels very realistic. And they always got one upset in them as well, I think. So, yeah, I mean, the path to 7 wins is pretty good for Pitt.
I would say that works both ways, Tom. You could get an upset in their favor, and then you have an upset against them because Narduzzi, I know he wins games, but the guy just drives me nuts whenever I bet him in an individual game spot.
I know. There are some moments where he drives you crazy.
Drives me nuts. All right, let's keep it in Pennsylvania. We'll go a little east to State College. Penn State to win the Big Ten. So in our VSiN college football betting guide, 17 of the polled quote-unquote experts, I have to put them in quotes because I was on that list. So it kind of takes away from it a little bit. But Penn State, 6-1 to win the Big Ten. Sean, why is this on the list of number 4?
Yeah, again, former Penn State, not grad. I did go there for 2 years. Maybe a little too much partying, but Penn State 6-1. It just feels like this is kind of the year for Penn State. If Franklin's ever going to win a Big Ten title, and especially what the Big Ten's going to look like coming up here, you feel like this is their year to do it. This is their window. Obviously, they struggled with Michigan last year, but they get Michigan at home, which is huge. I mean, they had a 4th quarter lead against Ohio State. Allen and Singleton, they have like 2 stud running backs. And, Alar, I can't even pronounce his name. He's a 5-star, though, at the quarterback position. And if he can play up to that potential, look out. So, again, Penn State, they, like Pitt, occasionally have a couple losses where you're like, what are you doing? If they could just eliminate those and get the home win against Michigan, I like their chances.
It's just, again, it comes down to beating the Buckeyes in the shoe. If they beat the Buckeyes in the shoe, that will be a flip against Michigan at Beaver Stadium. It'll be a flip. If they lose that game to Ohio State, Michigan will be a slight favorite. But we talked about it earlier in Michigan. I mean, before the Penn State game, which is game 10 for the Wolverines, they play the biggest joke of the first 9 games I think I've ever seen for a real program. Just a joke. I mean, they play no one good the first 9 games of the season, and then they at least finish with Penn State in game 10. And, of course, we know game 12 always against the Buckeyes. Hey, let's stay in the Big Ten, Sean. By the way, answering Jason Kahn's question, Rutgers University named in honor of Colonel Henry Rutgers. So there you go. There's your answer there. Scarlet Knights have a win total of 3.5. Look, I love Greg Schiano. I think he's an awesome college coach and obviously did not work in the NFL.
Yes, but he's perfect for college.
He's a great college coach. Great college coach.
He's like a poor man's Chip Kelly. He's Chip Kelly if you want 5 wins, right?
Well, look, if you get the bowl at Rutgers now, especially since they're going to be in the Big 18 and probably going to be the worst football program in the Big 10, that's 18 now, starting next year. But Sean, 3.5. I mean, look, this is just one of those where win your non-con games and find one in conference play.
Yeah, I mean, again, I like consistency at the head coach position, and certainly, Schiano has had a ton of years stacked up over at Rutgers. Last 12 seasons at Rutgers, he's only gone under 3.5 once, and even that was 3 wins, so he was right on it. They got Northwestern, Wagner, Temple, like they have some very winnable games. And to your point, just steal one of those conference games. I like to call him Greg, chicken salad Schiano, because he gets the most out of not a lot, right? I mean, look at those rosters, and is he ever going to win 7 or 8 games? Probably not, but it feels like the floor is 4 games. So yeah, Rutgers over 3.5. Let's go. You gotta, when you're doing these win totals, you gotta have a couple. Do a little dumpster diving, right?
I believe the phrase is you can make a chicken salad out of chicken bleep. I believe that is the phrase.
Exactly. Yeah.
But Rutgers 3.5. Hey, look, Sean, this is one you're going to know quickly, because if they find a way to lose to Northwestern with everything that's happened with Northwestern in week 1, you're dead. But if you win that one week 1 at home in Piscataway against Northwestern, all right, handle your business against Temple, beat Wagner. And then, I mean, if you beat Virginia Tech at home, you're right there. You go 4-0 non-con. You don't even need the conference win.
They can get that. The Virginia Tech, they can get that one. Come on.
Hey, could. Who knows? I know Kramer wouldn't be thrilled with that, but he'll deal if that ends up happening.
Phil Steele was hyping up Virginia Tech a little bit and saying, Coach Pry, he's a good coach. And you can see Kramer, he just had this, gleam in his eye, like, all right, maybe it's not all lost. He goes through a cycle where he's completely out on the program, and then August is the perfect month to get back in on Virginia Tech football.
It's the perfect month to get back in on anything college football, because the hope is there, and it's sucked away immediately.
Can't be wrong with these futures for at least 8 weeks, 9 weeks. Although your point, if Rutgers loses to Northwestern, it's an uphill battle.
It's all over for you, Sean, if that ends up happening. I don't know. I don't see how you get the 4 if they lose to Northwestern, but they should handle Northwestern week 1. All right, to the Pac-12, that will not exist next year.
Yes.
1 more year at least. Oregon, here's the play for you to win the Pac-12. Why the Ducks?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I look to fade hype teams, especially hype teams, like USC. I mean, I get it. It's hard to really say bad stuff about Caleb Williams, but it's just been like an entire year where we're coronating Caleb Williams, and NFL teams are going to be tanking for Caleb Williams. What could go wrong with this USC team? Just, march them right into the college football playoff, give them the Pac-12 conference. I think Oregon's a really good team. Second year for Dan Lanning, and I mean, minus that, butt kicking to begin the season against Georgia, they had a really good season. I'm just looking kind of for a way to fade the USC hype. Taking Oregon to win the Pac-12 feels like a good angle here. They're getting the most out of Bo Nix. He's got a good connection with the offensive coordinator. I mean, they got Bo Nix like, his Heisman odds are like under 20-1. It's crazy. And they have that home game against USC and Oregon State, which again, that game can always get bonkers, and it'll be the last one. So yeah, it's weird. I gave these futures to your producer even earlier in the day when Oregon was still officially in the Pac-12. I do worry now that they're leaving, maybe you get a little chip on their shoulder, but again, USC is also leaving. So I like the price here, 3-1.
This conference, we're going to hold your Big 12 future for the top of the next segment. So your number one college football future is something that's actually already been mentioned on the show tonight, which is a frightening proposition because it's so far down the board.
Yeah.
But it's the Big 12. Tom Casale and I talked about this last segment or 2 segments ago. We're all in on the Jayhawks, Sean. We're all in on Kansas. We're all in on them at 35-1.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas has been really good to, me and the other guys at Sports Gambling Podcast. I mean, I remember vividly, it was 2 years ago, their win total was 1.5. They got to 2 wins. It was electric because I forget who they played week 1, but it was like an FCS school. They were favored by 17. They barely won that game. And then you just had to sweat out this half win the entire season. They got it. They got 2-10, and then last year, I mean, look at that jump from 2-10 all the way up to 6-7. with the bowl game in there, I don't see why it's not possible for them to make another jump. I mean, Jalen Daniels looked really pretty good. If you recall, when they got out to that 5-0 start, they were, he wasn't the favorite, but he was in the mix there. ESPN was covering him for like Heisman watch. So I think the kid certainly has a ton of talent, and there is potential on this roster. Kansas State, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, they all get them at home. To me, this is just more kind of a fate of Texas. Texas as the favorite in the Big 12. I know everyone's saying, no, this is the year for Texas. I kind of want to, wait to see it before I really buy in. And there's a lot of fun long shots, or not even like massive long shots, but you could talk me into Baylor. Obviously, I do like Kansas at 35-1. I think just the Big 12 in general is pretty wide open. Why not, get a couple of these dart throws at much longer prices? Because I don't think, Kansas State at 5-1 and Kansas at 35-1. I don't think the actual implied probability of that is right. So I like rolling the dice here on some of these middle to long shots here.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.